Welcome to Side by Side, a podcast where I, Robert Kuang, take you inside conversations with artists, creatives, healers, and warriors taking the charge in their transformational story. In this final episode of 2025, we are discussing the Canadian hockey romance TV series Heated Rivalry with returning guests Tara Edwards, Erika Smith, and Eri Zhang. Leading up to the season 1 finale, we deep dive inside the TV adaptation and book series and explore the potential impact of their success for queer stories and the film and TV media landscape. Spoiler warning, most of us have read the books and do make general comments and impressions about the series. Please keep that in mind if you plan to read the books and want to avoid spoilers. You can find more side-by-side episodes at sidebysidepodcast.podbean.com. And if you'd like to connect with me about my services, please visit www.robertquanhome.com. Okay, we didn't put too much forethought into this besides the fact that we all are obsessed with the Canadian production Heated Rivalry by Crave, now out on HBO, and we really wanted to talk about it. And we're all recovering from episode 5 of this show. Maybe we can start there before we even jump into the show. How was it last night as we were all texting each other? Are you emotionally hungover?
I am not emotionally hungover, but that's normal for me. I'm not. It takes a lot to move me. I rarely ever cry during movies. I rarely ever cry during books. It's very rare. I think I can count on one hand the amount of things that have genuinely made me tear up. And sometimes I dismiss it on the occasion of, oh, I'm just on my period, so that doesn't count. I will say something that about last night's episode and just the show in general, the people yearn for melodrama. I think melodrama got such a bad rap for so long. Shout out to Shonda Rhimes for being partially responsible for that.
Shonda Rhimes and Ryan Murphy
And Ryan Murphy
really explored that genre to a fault
at the scene of the crime. But there's nothing inherently wrong with the genre itself. That's why I'm glad to see something like this where it's obviously melodrama and it's still very well done. I put my hand over my chest like a Genshin Impact character when they're being emotional. And I kept going, my heart! But yes, no tears.
I didn't cry either. I think I was just too excited. I did a lot of and a lot of kicking my feet and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean for me, I do cry at movies and stuff, but usually it's because someone is dead. And this one I'm just they're in love.
Yeah, when people say Heated Rivalry fans keep crying and getting super emotional, it's cathartic tears. It's not queer trauma, which is a whole discourse, and I think why people really like Heated Rivalry. That's not why people are crying because someone's died of AIDS or something like that.
Yeah,
right.
It's at Fellow Travelers, I cried a ton in the last episode, but Heated Rivalry, I'm just squealing with excitement.
I'm the only person who cried. I cried 3 times.
I actually have a question for y'all because I think I'm sensing a little bit of a different perspective because having a coming out moment, which is I think the first time that Eri cried in the episode, I didn't experience that. Coming out as asexual in 2023, I think, or 2024. First of all, people are that's not even a real thing. So whatever, girl. So I think that moment probably was a lot more emotional for people who have had a, oh my God, I'm gay moment, which I think can be very emotional for people.
I mean, if we're still talking about episode 5, this episode really made me fall in love with Svetlana and Rose Landry.
Yeah.
They cast, I often, this is another discourse. My concern with female characters in boy love stories is how often they're just a tool or an obstacle. Sometimes there's a melodramatic response of what do you mean you're gay? What gay?
Oh, so you doing the bending. How do you marry marry a woman.
This has a bunch of like baddies, and I really, really support that. I mean, I will say they're like incredibly generous female characters to some degree. I'm just like, wow, how do you do this? You are so like secure with yourself, unlike all the men around you. So just like shout out to them.
I love how the fandom is shipping Rose and Svetlana too, even though they have never met. There's like a lot of a lot of edits and some AO3 fanfics of them, and I'm like, I love this for them.
That one line of Svetlana saying that she has great fashion.
Yeah.
The sapphics were like, what do you mean by that?
What did she mean by that?
I mean, she's in love.
I mean, if they know what they're doing, season 2 could introduce a little bit of that. Because I feel like Svetlana is not really, I mean, she's way more developed on the show.
Yeah, I think so.
I would agree.
Yeah, she's like barely there in the book.
Though she does kind of play a important role for Ilya in the long game, so they really could expand on that because without spoiling it, I think like there is this undercurrent of Ilya being sort of all alone in the world because he has essentially no parents and no siblings, and he now lives in a foreign country, and it seems like, or that could be like a problematic concern, is that like his only anchor is Shane. So it's nice that he also has Svetlana, and I hope they bring her back and expand on that relationship in a way.
They have to.
Yeah.
She's extremely queer coded to me without necessarily it being explicit. I mean, I hope they explore that a little bit more. Everybody was bringing their A game for the like the side characters that they had, especially in like the skip episode. Considering how much they had to actually include into the episode, it was like an insane amount of like plot for one episode, and it had like no smut. But I guess we earned that because
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen them kind of like break it up into 2 episodes and have a little more of that smut, and just like have the pacing be a little less hectic. But I get with the time that they had. I think it's 6 episodes, so it makes sense that they had to shove it all in like that.
Where is the director's cut?
Exactly.
HD?
I know they have more cuts. I just know it because every time they cut away from a sex scene, I was like, they filmed
it. So just give us the box set today. Jacob Tierney, extra money for you, director's cut, like special edition, behind the scenes. It'll be $200 and I still will buy it.
I mean, they've done that. Didn't they do like a Twilight bundle with the books and like the soundtrack? I'm sure they did variations of all of these things,
yes.
Right? And unfortunately, that's another thing is like Heated Rivalry is catching up to its like massive success. So like all the merch are sold out and books. So originally this is based off a book series by Rachel Reed. Its publisher Harlequin was not really prepared for expanding into other markets besides Canada, and people are like reeling from not being able to give them money. So patience, I guess.
I had a realization earlier today where I was having a conversation, and this is a hot take, get ready to drag me in the comments, but I think Jacob Tierney is a little bit of a better craftsman than Rachel Reed. And so that's why I think the show as a vehicle for the novels is working a little bit more explosively than the books by themselves.
Starting with him picking Heated Rivalry as the first to do it, and he was going to loop it, which is like, to me, a bold artistic choice, I guess. But it makes complete sense once you see the 2 characters. It's one of those things where I'm starting to get why they're like, oh, these are 2 really good characters within the romance genre. And I'm getting that now because they had a lot more like complicated stakes besides like what their personal choices were going to be. I don't know if Rachel Reed explored every facet of it, with like Shane's identity and like being an immigrant and language barriers. Felt like Jacob brought all of that to the foreground a little bit more. I mean, right now I feel like everyone's super in love with Ilya, so there's that too. Everyone's falling into their romantic languages era or something. I don't know. And
I think too, sorry, Eri, I think it was a good choice to have the skip romance be 1 episode instead of like 7 episode, what it would be if it was.
No. I honestly, I agree. I think like the book is fine. The couple's good. I read Game Changer a while ago, a couple of weeks, maybe.
Yeah, we all scarfed down a lot of the book. Like, this all happened very quickly for all of us, that the hive mind brain rot.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Pluribus.
I do think they did a good job of translating that story. Obviously, there's a lot that's cut from it. I think the book, there's a lot of the same kind of like, oh, we wish we could be public with this, treading a lot of the same ground.
Yeah.
If you've read the book, you know, there's a lot more stuff that happens that like makes their story maybe more interesting or whatever, but
it depends.
A lot of it is just them like having the same old conversations and the same kinds of like internal conflicts over and over again.
Yeah, it seems like Jacob would probably have to do a lot more heavy lifting to adapt Game Changer than Heated Rivalry. And I also think that speaks to something Robert said in our group chat, which is that you can tell that Rachel herself as a writer gets more confident and more interested in the worlds of her characters as the books go by and develop. Because Game Changer probably is the I guess weakest in terms of, it's not horrible, it's not terrible, it's just like she goes from a honey bun or a Pop-Tart, like something sweet, you can just like eat it real quick and you enjoyed it, to the show, which is like 5-star Michelin like dessert, where you're like, what's going on in my mouth, in my head? It's literally that Ratatouille moment.
Jane's POV all the time. You know, there's been some observations that this could be like a Stucky fanfic. Yeah. To Rachel's point, I think it's like a little bit of that, a little bit of her own magic, and maybe some other elements too. And it was probably all mishmashed together. I don't feel that as much in the other books, I guess.
Yeah, I think also like the coffee shop AU is kind of like a fan fiction trope for like the setting, and this is just like a smoothie shop AU. Nothing wrong with a coffee shop AU, but I do appreciate how Heated Rivalry is a little more complex in the plot. I wouldn't recommend that people read Game Changer first, because I think it is a lot weaker than Heated Rivalry. I read Heated Rivalry, the book, in like less than 24 hours, and Game Changer took me like a week because I was getting too frustrated with Kip.
We all dislike Kip.
Yeah.
But Kip is like a princess, like in the show, and he sort of is like works that way. I mean, they wrote enough of his character where I want to know his like his world, and especially his like social circle more. Like showing like that found family. But...
You know, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, so I haven't read all of the books. I've read Game Changer and Tough Guy. It does seem like in the ones that I've read, the characters who aren't in hockey have like more interesting friend groups. So like Kip has a really interesting friend group. They show a little bit of that, but obviously Elena is the MVP. But there's other characters in his world that like could have been developed in the show. I mean, also honestly could have been a little bit more developed in the book too.
Yes.
But I think with Shane, a little bit with Ilya too, but with Shane, you start seeing him like building friendships with other characters more, like definitely more than Scott did in Game Changer. Shane has his best friend Hayden. They like hang out outside of the hockey rink. Like he babysits for them. Shane babysits for Hayden. To clear that up for anyone who thought that was a spoiler. That's not a spoiler. Shane, Hayden, as we know, has 3 kids, has 1 later on, so he has 4 kids.
Oh my god, eventually. Get off her!
And then obviously Shane also has Rose, who is a great character. Those 3, Kip, Shane, and Ilya, all have their hags.
Yes.
I mean, period. We're losing recipes, so I'm glad that that's back, because I have noticed, at least in like the wider cultural setting, that there has been a lot of tension between straight women and gay men, and straight women taking up gay men's spaces.
There's a big discourse around the show, especially, and with a lot of romance, especially MLM romance in general, is written by women or written by femmes with presumably a female reader in mind. MLM books written by women for women, or like storylines in general. And it's always, I think it's a sticky point for a lot of reasons, historical and contemporary. Yeah, I guess we could go into that about like fujoshi is becoming the big hot thing. Fujoshi
Yeah,
being a Japanese term, yeah.
What is a fujoshi.html?
So the thing about like fujoshi and like female like MLM fans in general, but like fujoshi specifically is, you know, comes out of a very specifically like Japanese context. Women writing these stories, consuming these stories as an alternative to the more very like heteronormative expectations of what women are supposed to be in Japanese society, in Japanese kind of expectations of gender roles and like marriage and mothership and all of those things. And so fujoshi actually, as this subculture, has a lot to do with resisting actually those ideas and expectations of them. On the other hand, as someone who, you know, someone who's trans, who transitioned from MLM to fujoshi, MTF, MLM to fujoshi,
Yes.
but like someone who has lived experience as queer, ostensibly male person to a femme person, there are, of course, issues with like how queer identity and especially gay male experiences are represented in a lot of fujoshi media and yaoi. Yaoi, again, is also something that traditionally was created by women for female authors, for female readers and audiences. Traditionally speaking, there's a lot, if you've read a lot of yaoi, you know, there's like tropes in it that are not great.
Yeah. Dubious consent. People who lived through the dubious consent era of the early 2000s, yaoi, deserve compensation, honestly.
Yes. Yes. It's like such a trope in yaoi and sometimes other things, but like I feel like this is very kind of foundational to like yaoi media.
Yeah.
Is this idea of like the top, I just forget which is which. Is it the seme?
Yeah, seme versus uke. Yeah.
Kind of being a stalker.
Yes.
And kind of like forcing the bottom into a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this idea that like stalking equals love, and that you just need to like kind of break down the bottom to the point where like he's like, I'll entertain this idea with you.
Wow, you're getting real about you're getting nitty gritty about the yaoi tropes here.
Yes, we need to talk about it.
But what's funny is that Heated Rivalry doesn't really reflect.
Heated Rivalry doesn't. No,
that's the thing.
True.
Like a lot of that doesn't happen.
Right. I mean, those tropes don't really show up. I think there are maybe ways that the two characters are represented, especially I would say like earlier in their relationship, maybe where they're still in this like will they won't they phase of not very forthcoming with their feelings and finding it very difficult to talk about their feelings. But I do think like Rachel Reed and now Jacob Tierney have taken it in a direction that's not like this trope of he's emotionally abusive because he loves you. Rather, I think it's a lot more exploring kind of the internal experiences of these two men who are like very in denial and also in very complicated situations.
Yes.
Obviously, you know, we have Ilya, who is Russian and cannot be publicly queer.
And also, Russians do not blush. That is not a thing that Russians do.
Russians do not blush. They do not do this.
Yeah, I think when we talk about like elevating these tropes into a sort of more queer story, I just keep thinking like, man, Jacob Tierney is kind of the GOAT. This could have gone so poorly and in so many like awful directions, and instead it's like that meme from, I want to say, Avengers Endgame, where he's like doing all the calculations of like the only one way to save like this material and not make it extremely problematic, and he somehow figured that out. Because you do bring up Ilya's like emotional struggles, and that reminds me of how many people like really misread Ilya in the first two episodes with the way that online discourse was going. It's like, oh, he's a typical bad boy, he's, you know, abusive, manipulative, and all that. And like everyone who's read yeah, and everyone who's read the books like, huh? He's like, what do you mean?
No.
He's literally just like textbook situationship. Like this is like mild level toxicity if you really want to be about it. Especially compared to those like again those early 2000s yaoi tropes, bro. Like people don't know how good they have it now with.
I know.
People are talking about some. Oh, my first BL was like Jinx and stuff, and I'm like, you didn't have to sit through Junju Romantica and like pull your hair out. You don't know how good you have it out here. Yuri on Ice was your first BL. What do you mean?
I think like people don't realize how much the material has been elevated because like I think that's what the collective effervescence is like, because I'm not nearly as embarrassed to like this as I have been in the past. You know what I mean? Because like you had to take like the parts that you do appreciate, even though the rest of it is like you wouldn't quite portray it that way, which happens so much. This is the closest you'll get to like the thing that you're looking for. You know, you take the representation that you can find. And this one, I just felt very like, this is good storytelling. This is good storytelling, good acting. And I'm not like embarrassed to like recommend it to people. And I would have to think twice before recommending something, you know, insert X, Y, and Z there.
Yeah.
And this is just like a good overall piece of media.
A lot of people have made this comparison. I think in some ways it's kind of a like superficial comparison, but in other ways I do think there's a lot to think about between like Heated Rivalry and Red, White, and Royal Blue. The way that they're both like
Hudson. I haven't seen that. Hudson Williams.
Hudson said that.
I haven't seen that.
Like when the Red, White, and Royal Blue movie came out, I think a lot of people were like one single feature film instead of a series. So obviously there was a lot of cuts that had to be made. Supposedly there's a 3-hour cut out there somewhere, but I think like when the movie came out, there was a contingent of fans that were actually like pleasantly surprised about it and thought that it was like better than what they expected. And I feel like a lot of those fans now are kind of like revisiting, now that we have Heated Rivalry, revisiting like this is what we could have had with Red, White, and Royal Blue. But I was thinking that too when you were saying like you're not embarrassed to tell people that you watch Heated Rivalry. I'm like, I was kind of embarrassed about like being more openly like a Red, White, and Royal Blue fan. Better than what I was expecting, but because my expectations were so low.
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh, but you can take this work seriously.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hoping for. But it's the same with like the world of like romance, where there's that discourse about how it's constantly disrespected, even though it's $1 billion industry, often just sustaining the world of the literary world.
It's because it's a feminized genre.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and I think that also like that goes back to why like how Harlequin did not anticipate the demand, because romance as a genre is just like not really taken seriously, and it's still treated as niche, even though there's like a huge fandom of it.
There are like entire bookstores in so many cities that are like dedicated to romance. Of course, Ripped Bodice was possibly, I'm not sure, but possibly one of the first, or at least one of the first that like made it a more popular idea.
Yeah, they have a Brooklyn location now, but I think the original was definitely West Coast. I think LA.
Like we're in Vancouver. Vancouver just opened one a couple months ago. Apparently Halifax, my sibling lives in Halifax and said that they just opened a romantasy bookstore specifically. And I think part of that is that it's like women who are establishing these bookstores because they know that it's a huge market. Obviously, they're interested in it, but they also know it's a huge market. There's this stereotype of like the person who reads romance novels. One of the foundational texts in media studies, a study by a female faculty professor, academic researcher, who studied women who read romance novels. And that book kicked off like an entire subgenre of media studies.
Yeah, something that you mentioned, Eri, that is coming up in my head and I kind of wanted to get you guys' perspective on is and something I often talk to you, Robert, about, because we always talk about the Matrix and the 90s and how this idea that telling queer stories or POC stories is like bad business. And it's like studios and like, people with the money are convincing themselves of that with literally no basis in reality. The romance genre is basically keeping books alive at this point, I think. Who's buying print books besides women who collect the Akotar books?
Well, that list of like the most checked out books of 2025 were all
Akotar,
romantasy, Akotar.
Yeah, and then it's like, what are the best television shows at getting, the lists and the most eyes at the end of 2025? One of them is Heated Rivalry, obviously, and then the other one is what, Pluribus, led by a lesbian main character. So it's like at some point these studio executives are doing their whole like, oh, we need to make stuff for more mainstream, but it's like mainstream too, because Heated Rivalry is once again proof a story like nobody cares about like being, I guess, disgusted or not having a sort of vehicle into a story if it's a good story. And that's why I think Heated Rivalry has so much like universal appeal as well, is because it is a fantastic love story. You really get this sort of emotional catharsis of, do they see, and it's so like millennial Gen Z too, and like of the time, because it's a situationship. It's like so situationship politics are like my bread and butter because I never do them anymore, but also because they are of the time where people, it's so timely, because if you were talking about the male loneliness epidemic, it's the unwillingness to be vulnerable that leads to the situationness of it all. And so it's really nice to see that play out on screen and see two well-rounded characters grapple with that.
I agree. I think like the ultimate fantasy now is like, what if my decade-long situationship is actually secretly in love with me and wants to marry me?
You like, and like so many people was like, should I text him?
I know.
Exactly. It's like no, like, your situationship is not.
No, you're not falling
off. You should not text them. You are not them. But it's like, oh, exactly. What if?
And it's winter and it's cold and people need warmth, intimacy. But I agree with Tara real quick about like the point about like showing vulnerability. I feel so many queer stories that I actually do find moving, all about seeing how much queer people struggle with vulnerability and all of the reasons we have these barriers and these like wounds and like trauma. Heated Rivalry actually shows the reward for doing the work to deal with that and to address it. I think that's why it was so healing and cathartic for me watching the show. It was a very different way to tell the audience like representation matters, right? To make episode 5 in like the most like heartwarming, tear-jerking to some ways. It's like, it's not like, oh, if you don't tell this story, people are gonna die. It's like it's often that's the feeling. Yeah.
That actually makes me think of something too, which is like, I hate to be like the macro person. Another way that Heated Rivalry is at the exact right time period is I think there was like an essay that went viral about how the 2010s were kind of like really highlighted by trauma essays and like people selling their trauma. And so we are kind of witnessing a reversal of that, where because the politics and society right now is so horrendous, we now instead are shifting our like desire for media to be lighter and happier and more whimsical and fantastical.
As a counterpoint, not fully counterpoint, when you were talking about like assumption that media that is about queer people or about people of color or other marginalized groups being niche, like niche media, I was also thinking, and I've seen others kind of making connections between these two as well, about Everything Everywhere All at Once, and this idea that like both Everything Everywhere All at Once and Heated Rivalry, I think, are pieces of media that are very about certain experiences, right? So about like the Asian immigrant experience, both of the mother as well as her daughter, that relationship. It's very specific to how like Chinese immigrant family structures work. And Heated Rivalry is very like it's very much about the specific experience being a closeted gay man or a queer man in a heteronormative world, but also in a way that is universal. Robert was saying Heated Rivalry is just a good story. Like it's a great, emotionally compelling story. Everything Everywhere All at Once is also a great, like, has a great universal story about motherhood and the relationship between children and parents. And I think we're starting to see more and more of like these kinds of media that take culturally specific narratives, show us that these stories aren't, oh, you have to be like an Asian American to enjoy Everything Everywhere All at Once, or you have to be queer to enjoy Heated Rivalry. These are universal experiences that resonate with huge audiences.
Yeah. And that makes me think of K-pop Demon Hunters and Sinners
K-pop
as well.
Demon Hunters.
Yeah.
Something similar with K-pop Demon Hunters too is that like it really came out of nowhere because no one expected it to be such a big hit, and it wasn't like didn't get a theatrical release until after it had already been popular, and kind of like how Heated Rivalry was like on Crave and then just kind of ended up on HBO and then blew up. We're seeing this success, but it's not like it's kind of almost a surprise to like the big studios and stuff because like the studios don't realize these stories are universal. It's the audiences who are discovering that, I think, a lot of the time. And unfortunately, I dropped in our notes like a link to this GLAAD study on representation on TV, and like the numbers are going down. And you know, I think it's like hope that shows like Heated Rivalry can help other creatives who are pitching stories be like, this can be as successful as Heated Rivalry. And then I think we just like wait and see if people take that seriously, because we've seen a huge backlash against like the DEI of everything is what they called like a lot of
that's very important to understanding Heated Rivalry too, is that it is a Canadian production that very much is like was made outside of the Hollywood machine.
Thank God.
Thank God, right? Was it an interview where was it Jacob Tierney said that the show could never have been made in America as it is today?
He alluded to, like, at some point, I think he tried pitching this to other places besides Crave as well. And he alluded to the fact that he got some notes, particularly from American entities. One of the main characters should be, you know, female central characters and things like that. But and there's nothing wrong with having a female main character, but I think what he's trying to point to in all of his interviews is like a lot of the notes basically bastardizes the franchise itself and the reason why people loved it in the first place. And he would be like, no, like, why destroy something that people already like? What is the reason? So from that place, like, I really like him as a showrunner too, which is very specific, but like, I really like the way that he's like, protective of this. And the way he talks about the material is just like really respectful, even when he makes changes, right? I think there are some parts where he's like, I want to improve upon this, but not because he hates the material or thinks like readers are stupid for liking romance or something. And that's become very clear. I really like that about him.
I like how he made some like thoughtful changes, like fleshing out Svetlana's character more, but he kept a lot of the things from the book in, even when they're silly, like the tuna melt scene.
The tuna melt scene was not silly. That was central to their relationship.
But the way that it's called, the tuna melt, sounds so not sexy.
It's also a little silly. It is central to their relationship, but it is a little silly. And it was like word for word, even though they've got like
and Rachel herself is very unserious for that scene, because she said somewhere that she purposely made it something that's kind of gross and like funky to prove that like for them to hook up through even a tuna melt afterbreath, you know it's real. And I'm like,
Just couldn't wait, huh? Couldn't wait to brush your teeth, huh? Okay.
To circle all the way back about like Hollywood, I think they are the ones, rather the suits, the executives, the boards, they are the people who are misunderstanding these stories. They are the ones misunderstanding like what people want to watch, which is why they're always surprised. And I'm just like, why are you surprised?
Right?
And I know people, to continue on the discussion about it being a Canadian production and thanking God for that, there is a little bit of like fear and trembling among the fandom because there's a season 2 has been confirmed, but people are scared that because of that, the production will change and have undue influence. Thank God that this still belongs to Crave and Jacob and them, because if this was not just a distro deal, Netflix would be canceling this for no other reason than we just want something new.
Oh, or taking like 5 years to film season 2.
Yeah, with Bridgerton. Like, I like that IP, although I found some of the racialized things that they did so distracting. I was like, what is that for? Who is this for? But I just hated the long wait.
This is something I haven't actually researched that much about Heated Rivalry specifically. There are a lot of jokes about like, oh, our government funded yaoi. Our government funded hockey yaoi. But it is
partly true.
Partly true, but it is something that's important to also, again, to the understanding the success of Heated Rivalry, and also how the production of it is that, like, in Canada, we still have, I say we, like we're citizens already, and not,
I mean, you're
not
part
having lived in
halfway
Canada
there.
for only a year, but
You're working on
but
it.
Canada, like, still has funding for the arts.
Canada
the
still
US
pretends
nice.
that artistic choice is important and that arts is important. Good for them.
Yeah, and also still has like publicly funded media. Jacob Tierney probably was able to take more risks than if it was a purely like American production that was only focused on commercial profits.
Yeah.
And not like where the production would have been tied completely to how much profit they can make from it, versus in Canada where they can get public funding to create something that like takes more risks and is more like raw about queer relationships, certainly in some ways. They do have safe sex.
They have safe sex. Ilya's repetitive asking of consent.
That is very
super,
new.
Like, attractive. But like you said, that's relatively new. Like, that was scripted in there, and like oftentimes the sex scene it's all about getting lost. But Ilya being actually like a checker inner is very, very, I think many people find that really attractive and like a relief, because his character is also very dominant, but he obviously cares about that stuff, which is fantastic.
This show is really well put together.
I wanted to go back to what you were saying about Crave, because something else I noticed is that like there are scenes you can tell where they are working with a limited budget, like when they're like, we're in Russia now, that's why all the curtains are up, or we're at the zoo, you're not going to see any animals, but like just go with it. But I feel like they were really smart about where they put their budget, because like we're getting great like lighting and cinematography and all the sex scenes and all the like romance confessions of love scenes, and that makes me think about how we have seen in like the American, probably Canadian too, I don't know, movie industry, like we've seen like the middle budget fall out, and it's now either like micro budget or like huge like Marvel movie. So it's nice to see like some, I assume, kind of mid-budget romance exist and be popular, because like I love a rom-com, whether it's on TV or movie, and there are just so few movie rom-coms out there.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier, about like that's kind of a dying genre.
What are some of your favorite like romance rom-coms then?
Yeah, I mean, so recently, one of my favorite recent ones is Rye Lane.
I loved Rye Lane.
London, and it's
yes.
Have you seen it?
Really,
it's so cute.
Really,
I would say that's one of my favorite recent.
And they were black. See?
Yeah. Yes.
That's allowed, people.
And then there are the classics, like I love, like, you know, Clueless and a lot
Notting
of
Hill.
Yeah.
Notting Hill. I like Bridget Jones. Bridget Jones is one of my, like, as far as like guilty you could say it's guilty pleasure, but I genuinely like the first one.
Bridget Jones, aka Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, and
yes,
I think the mid-budget fallout and also subsequent genre film fallout It's capitalism. You know, I'm gonna say I'm just like, are you gonna talk about capitalism again, Tara, and how it's the problem with everything? Yes, I am.
We're all gonna talk about capitalism.
It's true. It's so true.
If you really zero in on like why the sort of suits and executives who and the the people who decide what gets made and what doesn't, it always comes back to this like bang for your buck, spend the least amount of money as possible and get this return. But Sinners, Ryan never backed down about getting the rights back in 20 years. I think they're probably still mad about it. And it's like, why are you mad? Look at how much money you made.
I think with Sinners too, like look at how many like known IP movies Ryan Coogler had to direct before he could do like the one he really wanted to do. So I think that's something too where it's like, yeah, Sinners is great, but he had to put in like so much work and see so much success in IP films before he got to do this. And it's like, we should have an environment where that could have been his first film.
100%. 100%.
He had to make like what, studios billions of dollars before they let him make a movie that's inspired by his family, which is like kind of a wild thing to hear if he thought that was going to be the trajectory to get to where he is, but he did it.
Which is so aggravating.
A lot of times investors, when they place the bet wrong, they don't like it when the thing they didn't place the bet on makes money. And a lot of it is capitalism. People have this theory of like DEI being and capitalism being natural opponents, which is not. Oftentimes it can feed into capitalism. You're kind of seeing with like K-pop Demon Hunters and particularly Heated Rivalry, those two properties, like when you don't realize something's going to be a massive success for any number of reasons, you can't get as much back on your investment because you didn't plan properly. It's just like a lot of discourse to justify how you did or didn't make money. But I'm just like, the money's right there, just take it.
Yes, people not taking money when they need it. So poignant to Game Changer.
Back to Kip.
To circle back to Kip. Everything goes back to Kip.
No, but I still really want a Kip season. If I was in charge, what I would want is, obviously we're getting Long Game. We know that's on the table. What I would order is a mini series for Skip and then a mini series for each of the other books. First, it just fits in the sense that like obviously Heated Rivalry and Long Game were 2 books and no other couple has 2 books. You can get a good solid 2 to 4 episodes without ruining this thing. But that would be my personal wish list.
I do think we've already seen kind of the highlights of the Kip and Scott Hunter story in Heated Rivalry though, so I don't know if I would want to see them like again. But I'm also like, I trust Jacob Tierney to tell the story and he's telling it well, and I will be seated whatever he decides to do.
I personally want to see Tough Guy come to season 2 just because I love a femboy.
You know what? This show could get more radical, introducing a femme partner, basically, which this show is a little mass for mass, but not too bad, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Somebody did say this show is boy, body, lesbian brain is like kind of the energy of the show.
Yeah, I mean, Scott asking Kip to move in after their first hookup.
Yeah.
The way that's the beginning of a thriller where the love bombing is gonna get you killed.
And then Kip acting like he's like being held hostage.
Like, I just sit in your apartment waiting for you to get home.
You're staying in your rich boyfriend's apartment in the Lower East Side, acting like there's no way that you could have just taken the subway back to Bay Ridge to see your dad.
Yeah.
Like, you don't
like
even
hop on
need
the
to
R
transfer,
train and like
honey.
read a book.
It's like, I miss my dad. I was like, you don't like the R
subway's
train?
right there,
just
girly.
take the yellow line. Damn.
Yeah.
Oh, not the yellow line.
It's like, you could have just ride shared over there, it would have been like $20.
You were already
bro.
making that commute to work every day.
Could have taken that out of your $50,000 stipend.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I did a Lower East Side to Sunset Park commute for a while, and like that was fine. You could just do that.
Like, I understand, like, if he was going back and forth between Bay Ridge and Scott's apartment every day, he also, there's a middle ground there is what I'm saying, between
Yeah.
feeling like you're trapped in a rich man's apartment versus having to like make a hour-long commute both ways to get some dick.
The depictions of like New York for us is the way that people nitpick hockey depictions of Heated Rivalry.
Yes. No. Eri and I were texting about when Kip goes to Barnes and Noble, and it's like, why aren't you going to the Strand? It's like right there.
Well, in his defense, there's nowhere to sit in the Strand.
There's a coffee shop right across the street from it.
Well, and now I can't help but see Toronto when I see New York in like most media. I'm like, oh, that's Toronto, probably.
Yes.
This doesn't happen in the show, I don't think, but in the book, he goes to, quote, a bodega that sells touristy things to buy a New York souvenir sweater. Bodegas don't sell that shit. That's not a bodega. He went to. That's not a bodega.
That's just a store, yeah.
That's just a tourist gift shop. Those aren't bodegas.
Yeah.
The way we're dragging the depiction of New York in Game Changers is like the same way that I've heard straight hockey fans lay into the fake hockey podcast that they have on the show where they're like, and it's so funny seeing like straight men genuinely like talking about the show. It's very uncanny valley, although of course I enjoy it. What else do we enjoy about the show as like last things or everything?
Music choice.
Yeah, I was gonna say the soundtrack is so fun, and
bringing back Feist, Canadian classics, Feist and Wolf Parade.
Tattoo. The tattoo scene is like an all-timer.
Tattoo getting their highest streams ever because of that episode on
Missed
Spotify.
Opportunity to play the Russian version, Yasoshlasama, instead of the English version.
I love the edit that does both, and it's like English from Shane's point of view and Russian from Ilya's point of view. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is art.
Hot take, I've seen that edit and I get it thematically, but unfortunately, like pacing wise, the Russian version makes it a little awkward. I'm sorry.
I will say, like, doing the back and forth between the two versions didn't match up very well in that edit.
We can get a director's cut of Tattoo Russian version. I'm sure there will be like special feature if the DVDs ever do special features anymore. Like, but yeah, the music. That's another thing with like really popular media that go viral is like the soundtrack usually is like really good, or like people really like it. And this one was just like a lot of like Canadian musicians and then like Feist and Tattoo.
Yeah. Feist is Canadian.
Oh, Feist is Canadian? So Canada? Oh God.
Yes, honey. We had Feist. We had Wolf Parade in the last one during the Skip Kiss.
And that's why I'm like, I wonder if we're going to get some Tegan and Sarah in the next episode. I would love that.
Yes. Tegan and Sarah.
Wait, are they Canadian?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Robert, who are these Canadian people? I thought you were from the US this entire time.
Me looking at this all Canadian musicians, I'm like, what Canadians? What are you talking about? Oh my God.
But one final thing I want to say that I really like about the show, and I noticed it especially in episode 5, the directorial choices of blocking and like cinematography is really, really so fucking great, because you can imply so much about what Ilya is going through just from how the camera is looking at him. The disjointedness and the disconnect and the heartbreak, and also just the acting. My babies, Hudson and Connor, you ate that. Hudson's ability to kind of cry
like, for someone who's not a native Russian speaker.
Oh, Connor ate that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't speak Russian, but he seems like he's doing great.
I'm gonna find a clip of that and send it to my Russian friend and ask how good it was. But from what I've seen on social media, it seems like his Russian's pretty good.
It has been kind of like a queer storyteller fantasy of mine to have like a character like use their like first language in a particular key moment, and this show fucking did that, and I'm like both loving it but a little envious that it was so good and like effective.
It brings me back to all the Aragorn Legolas fanfic I read in my youth, where Legolas is speaking Elvish.
You know, for those who've seen it, Saving Face, which is like, is it the best film? No, but it's an
I
important
love
film. You know, there's that whole like coming out that's in Mandarin. This was like that, but in Russian. And I was like, yes, I was eating that up. He did say that in like the second half block of like filming, it didn't have as much Russian, and he appreciated that because during the time when he had to learn Russian, his brain was just like mush. Like he just couldn't think properly. He just had to trust his muscles. I was like, I don't know how you do it, but that was amazing.
We also we don't have time to get into this, but the racial politics / lack thereof.
Oh.
Yeah.
Where I'm constantly saying Rachel Reed forgot that she wrote a Asian character.
And you would be correct.
And so Jacob Tierney, like, trying to put a little bit more emphasis on that, but we still, because there is nothing to build off of, we're still not getting much. We got like throwaway lines about like, oh, it's going to be so important to see for like little kids to see an Asian on the rink. No, brought up once, never again.
Yeah, and then Yuna, you know, and Hudson, what they mean their box is too white.
But I have a colleague who asked if like I wanted to come in and guest lecture in her class about queer Asian diaspora, about Heated Rivalry. I said, I don't know how much I can say about queer Asian diaspora in Heated Rivalry. There's not much to say there.
There are many other things we can recommend for that. I will say about Hudson real quick. I think Connor Story, he's an amazing actor. Hudson like is a great scene partner, and he does a lot of acting where he literally is doing nothing at all. Like he has to be like sitting still, not moving, and having no dialogue. I want to like shout out a couple scenes where he did that really, really well. But again, it's not like the award grabbing type of performance, you know, but like
face acting.
Yeah. But like,
the Rose coming out scene I thought was kind of telling him to come out was great, and he was really just reacting rather than saying too much.
And you like just watched his eyes tear up.
Yes, I'm sorry. Like Hudson really ate. Like I know, obviously Connor is like that girl, but like I feel like Hudson's micro expressions, and they really are micro because he doesn't have any dialogue, and he is just kind of reacting. I feel like that is incredible to watch personally as well. I don't know. I'm in my toxic Hudson fans phase, so
toxic Hudson.
He needs the protectors. I can tell the fans they're
literally. I'm now a Hudson Williams shooter. Like we're pulling up.
Oh my god.
Leave him alone.
I can tell that moved you because your spelling in the group chat got exponentially worse after that. It was just unreadable, illegible.
On an edible, let the record show, which also might have contributed to me crying 3 times. The 3 scenes I cried during, the coming out to Rose, the Russian monologue, and then Skip.
I could not believe how emotional Eri was getting. I was like, are you a gay man? Don't take my experience. What is happening?
Cultural appropriation.
I was like, this is my moment.
That's hard. I'm a gay man trapped in a woman's body, trapped in a gay man's body.
There you go. Oh gosh.
Yeah, I did want to mention, like we've touched on this, but like the sex scenes are so good, and like not to be like the horny one, but like they are like shot so well, and they're so hot. Like they've done all these interviews about like the intimacy coordinator, and it seems like it was a very like safe set environment. I think it shows too, like there is an appetite in audiences like for sex scenes, and I feel like there's kind of a backlash online with the discourse where people are like, oh, you don't need a sex scene everywhere, and it's like, well, sometimes you do. If it's a romance story, sometimes you do.
I saw a TikTok where somebody was making the point that like the fact that we have like everyone's obsessed with a show like this where they have these very explicit sex scenes that I agree are also really well choreographed is a sign of how Puritan the media culture in the US has become. We just don't get horny media anymore.
Yes.
And like,
Yeah.
we used to have that. We used to have like Queer as Folk.
The true, which was
Like,
my
2003?
freaking Bible as a true Fujoshi, like true rotten woman.
Yeah.
Queer as Folk was my bread and butter in high school. So like getting to this place where people are clutching their pearls over some frauding, I'm like, can we be are you okay?
And they never even heard of frauding before. It's like, open the schools.
I didn't know that's what it was called. I was just like, you just like try stuff, guys.
Okay, so me and Tara, apparently, we're the only ones who knew what frauding was.
I
knew that Fujo.
I knew.
Fujos from the 2000s. Truly shocking.
Yeah, I'm saying I've been reading horny fan fiction since like 2002. So.
Who's among us has not, Robert?
We should have started with this, by the way, but I think we all have read fanfic and Fujoshi stuff. I read some really good like Sailor Moon ones and like Inuyasha for people who know what that is.
What?
And I wrote some fanfic technically, and I know Tara has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will not disclose what I've written about.
Yes, you can call me a Fujo connoisseur, if you will, because I think, not to make this about me, because asexuals are not, shout out to Heartstopper. I think that's like the only like queer media that has in recent times discussed like asexuality. I think for me, part of my queer identity has been the consumption of queer media and being excited about it. So since those days, it's like at the beginning of the episode when we were talking about like Shane and Ilya and all of them having their hags, it's like I've been a hag for so long without really wondering.
We need a new term.
Yeah.
We need a more enduring term.
However, I feel in the same way. I just feel like hag, we need to bring it back and reclaim it.
We do.
Because like
we need to reclaim it.
It shouldn't be so much animosity. Can we all get along, guys? Like, can we get back to when we were all working together as one so that we could Fujo out with our gay best friend about, the sex scene on the bed? A lot of people do misrepresent Fujos as majority straight because a lot of them are lesbians, are queer, are bi, are pan, are ace.
Those of us who are real Fujoshi, like real 2000s Fujoshi, know that it's the lesbians that keep MLM alive. Not the straight women, it's the lesbians.
True. Because they just want to look at a beautiful Seimei with gorgeous blonde hair, like whipping it back for like 3 pages as he gets off his motorbike, and the poor Uke is just like, my heart.
Somebody said this show's gonna give birth to a new generation of gay trans men.
I've seen a lot of discourse about that, and I've seen a lot of people posting like, I wish I was a man so I could kiss a man in a gay way, and I'm like, I love this for you. And I'm just like, can I watch?
Yes, can I?
I have a cursed idea that I need to share based on what we just said. Hatalia, but it's queer identities.
Oh no,
I don't know what that means.
That is a cursed
Unfortunately,
idea.
in the year 2025, that's a deep cut. It shouldn't be. That was our culture. But in 2025, in current media culture, that's a deep cut.
They can do more radical things like that too. I wouldn't mind like a sapphic version like people have talked about. There are many sports that is appropriate. I wouldn't mind a rugby depiction. Wouldn't mind like sharpshooting as a sport with different sapphic gay implications.
The sport is really beside the point. Like, I don't care.
Exactly.
Just show me the love story.
Watching for back checks on the ice.
Yeah.
We're watching for back checks on the couch.
When Renee Rapp said we were getting a lesbian Regina George, and then that didn't happen, that's what I want. I want an actually lesbian Regina George Mean Girls situation. I also, ADHD moment, want to add in, like, there's so much support among lesbians for, like, queer male stories, like MLM stories. And I think we don't see a lot of that being returned, like a lot of queer men who are, like, as hyped for, like, WLW stories. But I do think maybe that tide might be turning. I was thinking like Chapel Roan being like an icon among the gays, all the gays. But
bring on the toxic Yuri.
Yes.
And the finale's coming out on Christmas.
Yes, we'll be watching, all tuning in on Christmas. Any last things we want to like send out into the universe for the future of queer media?
Someone hire me.
I think
we're all kind of, besides Eri, all kind of like underemployed right now, and we would love to work on Heated Rivalry season 2.
Just give us the HBO podcast that you guys like give to every show on HBO. Just give it to us.
Let us send in our spec scripts. Let us start working on our own smutty pilots and proof of concepts.
We'll say nothing about hockey.
No.
That's not what we're here for. That's not what the show is here for.
We'll pick another Canadian thing.
Yeah.
You know, so. Any last things, Tara, Erika, you want to say about Heated Rivalry?
Great show. Great job, Jacob.
Hudson Williams, excited to see his rise to stardom.
And hopefully we'll do this again in season 2. Thanks for chatting, Fujoshi.
Thank you.
This has been fun.
Fujo out.
Fujo
And Happy
out.
New Year. Happy New Year, everyone. Happy gay year. Yes.